Today, we explore how extreme stress and sensory overload can lead to schizophrenia-like symptoms, providing insights into the underlying mechanisms of this complex disorder. Throughout history, torture has been employed to break the human spirit. Techniques such as exposure to excessive light, sound, and physical abuse during interrogations demonstrate that under sufficient stress, anyone's mind can break. These methods often induce hallucinations and delusions, akin to those experienced by individuals with schizophrenia. These torture methods aim to overwhelm the senses and disrupt cognitive processes. Techniques such as prolonged exposure to bright lights can lead to visual hallucinations, while incessant loud noises cause auditory hallucinations. Physical abuse and stress positions further contribute to the breakdown of mental stability, leading to a state where the mind can no longer distinguish between reality and illusion. Even in controlled settings like Navy SEAL training, we see similar effects of extreme stress. Recruits are subjected to rigorous sleep deprivation and intense physical activity designed to push them to their limits. Former Navy SEAL Stu Smith recalls vivid hallucinations after 72 hours without sleep, seeing an airplane as a flying horse and a bridge as a giant Pez dispenser. These experiences highlight how the mind can break down under sustained stress and deprivation. These examples underscore a critical insight. Extreme stress can overwhelm the brain's ability to function, leading to psychotic symptoms. This aligns with a unified theory of schizophrenia centered around sensitivity and cognitive overload. Individuals with heightened sensitivity are particularly vulnerable, as their brains are more easily overwhelmed by stress. In our modern world, urban living, socioeconomic pressures, and sensory overload can push sensitive individuals into a state of cognitive overload, precipitating the onset of schizophrenia.
How does the example of torture, which is experimentally overloading individuals sensorially, align with a universal theory of schizophrenia based on sensitivity and cognitive overload? 1. Sensitivity to stress. A unified theory of schizophrenia emphasizes that heightened sensitivity makes individuals more susceptible to stress-induced psychosis. The example of torture-induced breakdowns demonstrates that extreme stress can overwhelm any individual's mental defenses, leading to psychosis. This supports the idea that stress plays a critical role in triggering psychotic symptoms. 2. Overload and sensory processing. Torture often involves sensory overload, excessive light, sound, and deprivation, isolation, darkness, which can lead to hallucinations and delusions. This directly parallels the concept that schizophrenia can result from the brain being unable to process excessive or insufficient sensory input, leading to a breakdown in cognitive function. 3. Universal susceptibility. The fact that extreme conditions can cause anyone to experience psychotic symptoms underscores the universality of the stress response. It suggests that, while highly sensitive individuals might be more prone to such breakdowns under less extreme conditions, the underlying mechanisms, stress, sensory overload, deprivation, are the same for everyone. 4. Neurobiological impact. Torture-induced stress can cause significant neurobiological changes, including hormonal imbalances and structural brain changes similar to those observed in schizophrenia. This supports the idea that environmental factors and stress can induce schizophrenia-like symptoms by altering brain function and structure.
The use of torture represents the unethical testing of this unified theory, while supporting this theory by 1. Illustrating situational stress and cognitive overload. The unified theory posits that schizophrenia results from cognitive overload and the brain's inability to manage excessive stress and sensory input. The torture example vividly illustrates how severe stress can lead to cognitive overload and psychotic symptoms, reinforcing the theory's argument. 2. Explaining individual variability. While extreme conditions can cause anyone to break down, less extreme but chronic stress might only affect those with heightened sensitivity. This distinction helps explain why some people develop schizophrenia under everyday stresses while others do not, aligning with the idea that sensitivity is a critical factor. 3. Providing a holistic view. The example of torture-induced psychosis integrates well with the broader context of a unified theory of schizophrenia. It shows that psychotic symptoms can result from a combination of factors, including sensory overload, stress, and neurobiological changes, which have been identified as key components. Conclusion. The unethical example of torture and stress-induced psychosis provides a powerful illustration of the mechanisms that are proposed in a unified theory of schizophrenia. Torture demonstrates how extreme stress can lead to schizophrenia-like symptoms, supporting the theory's emphasis on stress, sensory processing, and cognitive overload as central factors in the development of schizophrenia. This real-world analogy strengthens the argument by showing that, under sufficient stress, anyone can experience the kind of mental breakdown associated with schizophrenia, thereby validating the core principles of the unified theory of schizophrenia.